computer. Wait. Okay, here we go. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the second half of the Treeshakers show. We are honored today to have two of the most beautiful black women I've ever seen in my life. And so really when you get a chance, you should go to the YouTube channel and just lay your eyes upon them because they are beauty and magnificent to behold. Thank you for your service for being teachers in this world. God bless you because that is by far the most noblest of professions. And welcome to the Tree Shakers show here in New Orleans, Louisiana, where we are housed out of. But we also have a national following as well because tree shaking is tree shaking. And tree shakers are people who are willing to go against the grain and do the extra to get the work done. And I believe that both of you fit that bill today just by being teachers. So welcome to the Tree Shaker Show. Let's introduce yourselves and tell us about who you are, how you came to be here today.
Absolutely. Just want to thank you, Miss Kim, for having us and thinking about us for this show. It's just a wonderful opportunity. I'm glad that we got a chance to meet. My name is Danielle Apugo. I'm Louisiana native, born and raised in a small town called Plain Dealing, Louisiana, in Bossier Parish, right up there, a little bit outside of Arkansas. So I'm thrilled to be here, and I'm thrilled that my natives. I'm in the place of my people. Uh, so we so we can really let our hair down and let our slip hang, and we're just gonna get in here and we're gonna talk about some of the real deal still that's going on and really keeping people informed. My current role is as assistant professor of education at Virginia Commonwealth University in Richmond, Virginia. So I'm in the Department of Teaching and Learning. I am a former teacher, or I should say, I'm still a teacher at heart. I'll be a teacher till I die, and I still hold certification in Louisiana, and that's where I cut my teeth in Louisiana. A graduate from Northwestern State University, and so really decided to continue on my education because of what I had experienced as a young person growing up in rural North Louisiana. And so that drives everything that I do, everything that I think about really organically comes from that place, and really trying to and really just trying to connect those experiences, my experiences, as well as those around me, with the research and scholarship that I do. And so my research interest primarily focuses on the experiences of Black women and girls in education. So I'm delighted to be here and talk a little bit more about some of the projects that I have. And I guess, Ms. Kim, the focus of tonight is going to be about our book project, Strong Black Girls.
Yeah. Strong black girls. Okay, we're gonna get to that. Let's Miss Lynnette. Okay, I'm sorry. How we gonna do, Lynnette? You wanna go now?
Sure. Hi, everybody, and thanks for having us here. So I'm Lynnette Mawhinney. I'm associate professor and chair of the Department of Urban Education at Rutgers Newark. And my background was I was an English high school teacher in Philadelphia for many years, and then now I do teacher training. A lot of my research is around diversifying the pipeline, which basically means making sure that we can get folks that look like me teaching in the classroom. So making sure that we get our Black folks, our Latinx folks, our Asian folks to really come and represent, because students really need them. And I'm also a children's book author too, on the side. So I have a children's book it's called Lulu, the One and Only, that came out as again, to be a resource to talk about issues of race in the classroom, but also in homes, so with parents and teachers. So but today we're also really excited to talk about our book, our edited volume, Strong Black Girls. But we're also doing an event tomorrow at the Community Book Center. So please come out to that, all who are listening. It is a virtual event, so it's free.
And how do we log on? I'm posting a flyer on our Tree Shakers Facebook page, or you can always call me at 504-248-8594, and I can text me there, and I can send you the link to go to this Strong Black Girls event on tomorrow. And I have particularly some young women that I want to invite to come. That's really one young woman is in eighth grade at a very segregated part of Louisiana in pre-high school, and the school. Her father called me because the school showed the movie Roots, and in the whole school they have 8 black children, and the kids started ridiculing this little girl and just made her life miserable, calling her the N word. And I just felt like it was disingenuous for the school. They were calling her the N word, telling her she should be a slave and she's a slave, and about hold her head. All kind of derogatory things were said, and I was just, as an advocate, my heart broke for that father who was a veteran who went to serve this country in the military, and this is what he comes home to, having to deal with his young daughter witnessing this in school. So, strong black girls, we shouldn't oughta have to keep being regenerated after we being so mistreated, especially from something happens to a black girl when she is victimized at such a young age so harshly. And I believe that adults really, whether they did this intentionally or not, by showing this movie and not doing the support that goes along with that about what Alex Haley was really doing when he created that movie, it's disingenuous to the students in that school, and it harms white children when you let them think that this is okay. It puts them in a harm's way, and it puts them more likely to do things like we just saw at our state capitol. You know.
And I think you really hit on the point, Miss Kim, is that fact that it harmed all the children, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's why Danielle and I are we train teachers, and part of our training and trying to, be justice oriented, not only with our approach, but how we're training these teachers to go into these classrooms is just for that. I can see it now, because some of the trauma that you're explaining is like similar trauma I went through, but I can see it now. They played Roots probably in February because it was Black History Month, and they thought that was the way that they can just cover the curriculum, right? But so already that's a problem, right? There's no supports. It's tokenizing, this Black girl and the 7 other Black children. No, right? And I think just no. And I know that that's why, speaking for myself, that's why I'm in this work. That's why I became a teacher. I went to a rural white schools all my life, in rural New Jersey, and was traumatized over and over. And I became a teacher because I wanted someone who looked like me, who understood my experiences, and not only for other Black girls, but also for all the children, white children included, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. What are you thinking, Miss Danielle?
I'm really. It's interesting because we had an event in February, and a parent actually asked a question about this very same thing. Here in our area, here on the East Coast, the very same thing. So the teacher had done or shown something in class that was traumatic, related to Black people's enslavement in this country, without any type of framing, without any type of, proper supports in place, as you said. So none of this was in the conversation when we're thinking about children. And so part of what we wanted to do in Strong Black Girls was to elevate these experiences that are happening, right? So shining a light. And also when folks are reading chapters from the book, or consuming or talking about it, there's really this reflective piece in this sort of healing, like, okay, this happened to me too, or, you're here, but I also experienced this. And so being able to capture that was really powerful, because we aren't having these conversations. So parents are suffering in isolation, where their child has been sent home, that's traumatized, and there's no support for the parent and trying to referee the situation. And then there's absolutely no type of discipline for the school. And so that leaves them to traumatize another child next February. And so I think it, like Lynnette said, it really starts from the teacher training aspect, and the continued education for teachers. And I know particularly in Louisiana, there are tremendous barriers to professional development for teachers, whether it be, of course, they have money for everything they want to have money for, but for money for training teachers and really providing the supports and putting those supports in place for teachers are just not there. And so that's still, it's sad to see, which is why I'm kind of processing that. It's sad to see that it's still happening.
Yeah.
It's still happening. It was happening when I was a little girl coming of age in the late 80s and 90s in Louisiana public school system. And it's still a problem. And so this is really what drives our work, is focus. What's really happening here in these schools? What are the micro things that are happening at the classroom level, right? Because this video was shown at the classroom. Lots of times people think, or we react to as a public, these really terrible and traumatic, violent situations that we know sometimes gets this visceral reaction from people, like, oh my God, that's terrible. Somebody body slammed a fourth grader. But there are things that are happening every day to Black girls. And we call it sometimes it's described as death by 1,000 cuts. And so these little slights and these little chipping away, and it's really soul tarnishing, because it's something that you don't forget at the soul level, and it's something that this young lady will not forget. She'll be telling the story, and it will live on. And so that's really our focus and purpose, as we kind of talk a little bit about the desire and the intention behind the book is to build a community around the experiences of Black girls, what's happening aside from what we know about in the national narrative, but how can we start to look at these encounters and say, okay, enough is enough. We are in a state of emergency.
Yes. We are in a state of emergency. So tell me, what's the target audience for Strong Black Girls? Who are you trying to reach? Who in particular do you want to? Who is this training, this event specifically geared to? Who should come out to attend this meeting? I know everybody should come, because this is a real thing that affects us so tremendously, and we are not getting enough information about it.
No, we're not, because we're not getting enough information about it, is because it's common, and we've seen this time and time again, that we can harm and violate Black women and nobody flinch, right? So our pain doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how loud we scream. It doesn't matter what happens. It's common practice that we just ignore these things, but we're not going to ignore it, and we're not going anywhere. So the primary focus for Strong Black Girls is Black girls, women and girls themselves. That's our primary stakeholder, and that's who we want to lift up. Now, those who are friends of this movement, teachers, parents especially, social workers, other clinicians, healthcare, anyone who comes into contact or who is a friend of Black girls, women and girls, it needs to be engaged and involved in the premise and the stories in this book. for one reason, and this is not the only reason, but I want to say this and make this clear, is that oftentimes, because we don't hear about it, we think it's not happening. Like it didn't, it must not be, everything must be good. And I think there's a narrative also around Black girls that we're doing okay. We're graduating college at this magnificent rate. And those things may be true. Yes. However, what are we having to sacrifice and give up in order to make it where we're making? So we have to check on our Black women and girls in all different sectors that we exist, because we know we exist in all these spaces, although it's not all the time magnified or we don't know, but we have to be able to check up on that. Somebody has to shine the spotlight on what's going on with regard to the racist behavior, microaggressions. We're talking about K-12 schools, criminalization of Black girls for their hair, for their aesthetics, for trauma. I see a lot of times that our trauma is criminalized. Yes. So we come from communities oftentimes. I know I'm speaking from my own experience as a Black girl child in rural South Louisiana. In rural areas, oftentimes there's resources are scarce. Schools are fractured. There's little to no resources for students, and so and parents are trying to survive. And so when you throw all of these different factors into the equation, we come up with, there's not, we're just gonna throw them in here and hope for the best, and there's not gonna, we're gonna just have them fend for themselves, and there's no real response to what we're experiencing. And so everything that's happening or that could be happening in our community, which happens as a result or the aftershocks of structural inequity, of systematic oppression, all these things that children, families are bringing into schools. And when they act out, or when they, have opposite reactions that we think children ought to have to how they're being treated, now all of a sudden you're suspended. Now all of a sudden you're being, now all of a sudden you're loud and you're out of control and you need to be pushed out of school.
You have anger issues.
You have anger issues. And so we fail to pluck the root. We fail to examine the root causes. We fail to start there. We fail. And I also want to share just really quickly, because a friend sent me this article that talks about suspension rates in across America. And so they happen to hone in on several different states, Louisiana being one of those states. And so this was just published at the top of this year. And I mean, I'm not surprised because I'm a native, but it is unbelievable the rate to which we suspend Black girls in this state. Unbelievable. And so
state of Louisiana, yeah.
If we were, and there's direct correlations to these suspensions and girls being pushed out of school and now pushed into other forms of system involvement. And so these pathways of confinement that we build for girls, and that schools in many cases are able to intervene. They're able to, respond to trauma in some way, shape, or form, even at the classroom level, but it's not happening. And when we see the aftershocks as a society when those needs are not met, because oftentimes what we're experiencing as Black women and girls in schools, we experience them in higher education space and college, we go on to our career and we experience them, and then the cycle continues. And so,
that's right.
Yes, and so we're here to again say we're not going anywhere, and we will be amplifying this, and we are standing strong in what we believe and know that is possible for Black women and girls in the education space.
And I want to share another really big statistic with you. In the state of Louisiana, and probably all across the country, but particularly here in the state of Louisiana, Black women and girls are the number one victims. And that's just across the board. We're the number one victims. When someone is hurt, mangled, or harmed in any kind of way that's illegal to do, it's we are the number one person who's going to be victimized. We're the number one person whose rights are violated. Black women. So I think that it's very timely for you to present us with a peace and strong Black girls, because we strong because we have no other alternative, and it's not fair that we brought the burden for being stressed and not being able to have resources, not being able to speak our truth to power. And I feel like that's what's happening here with this book. What are you guys thinking about that?
Yeah, it's interesting in hearing these sad statistics. This story literally happened yesterday, or this experience happened. So back when I was in high school, they had our junior year these groups. I think it was called peer leadership or something, and we had like these small groups, and it was supposed to be this time to like share and like our experiences in school. It's supposed to be quote unquote a safe space. So I'm in this group, and there's a white boy in the group. And I waited till last. I was just listening, and people were like, well, what's your experiences here at the school, Lynnette? And I shared, all the racist trauma I was going through. And then I finished talking, and this boy looked at me and said, I don't believe you, point blank. And I'll never forget it, right? It was just like a dagger to my heart. Yesterday, I'm on Facebook. You know how Facebook gives you the suggested friends?
Right, the people you may know.
He pops up. And in a picture, he's with his daughter, who's a girl of color. And I couldn't shake it all day yesterday thinking, what happens? And they're still in our same community we grew up in, right? White rural community. I'm like, well, what's going to happen the day when she comes home from school and says, Daddy, this happened to me? Is he going to believe the trauma that she went through, or say, I don't believe you? And so I just been thinking about that all day when that happened yesterday. But that goes back to this book. Like, I hope he's a parent that picks up a book like this, right, and reads it and doesn't have that response like he did when he's in high school, and that fact that like things are really happening, and how can we move forward? And that's what's great about this book is we have voices from one of our authors was in 5th grade when she wrote what she wrote in the book, up to, PhDs and everybody in between, talking about their experiences, which is, again, why we wanted to have this book reach out and touch people on many different age levels. And the fact that the book is built as a tool. So at the end of each chapter, there are these reflective questions, for everyone, for parents and teachers and administrators and community members to really think through this, because school is everything that, mainly everybody goes to school. The majority of people go to school and they have all these different experiences. So how can we then take those questions as a tool and think through this as a community, right? How can we do better for Black girls?
How can we do better? Because Black girls deserve better right now. I know I see it raising a Black girl, stepmama to a Black girl, grandmother to 2 Black girls. So, and I worry about them in this patriarchal society. That's a new term I learned from the millennials. I love it, right? Because they really are helping me, because I was way before my time in feeling the injustice. Because when I was a young girl, I became the protector, because I have always hated bullies. So, and I see some of those bullies now, and now we all friends, but it wasn't always that way, and I've always hated bullies, and I see the behaviors of our elected leaderships as bullies. That same bullying that happened on the schoolyards and in classrooms, outside playing, they're still present today in our society. Our 45th president, a lot of the words that he would often say, I remember those words being spoken as a child. I remember that whole attitude, that whole demeanor as a child, hearing those words, those harmful words spoken to intimidate and divide with hatred and racism, overt racism. So I'm glad that you are stepping up to make our truths be told, to have a space for our truths to be told, and to share that. I also want to share on the screen the I want to share on the screen the the flyer. That's good. So while we're talking, we can wait. What is this? I'm so like wait. Mm, I can't. Uh, let's. Okay, let's pause this.
So the event, if anyone's looking to come out to the event, again, it's going to be tomorrow from 4 to 5 p.m. You can go to a tiny URL address, which is MWXRN9JK, to get the information for the Zoom.
So I'm excited about the Zoom. I really am. Are they gonna be people actually inside of the bookstore also?
We haven't got any details about that, but I think that if that's an option, that's, as long
So
as
what are you guys doing? Y'all doing like a press junket and just going all over the place and doing interviews and inviting people to come to the Zoom meeting?
Essentially, yeah. Like
That's great.
yeah.
I think that's sort of the first leg of what we're doing with the book, and hopefully we're gonna you know, hone in more on our target audience, which would be some of the folks we mentioned, and trying to do some stuff in schools and really get in there and kind of and we would love to really soon do some book talks, some book studies with groups, and just kind of separate the book into some parts and then have people join it that way, because I think that's one of the most efficient ways to kind of reach a large number of people together and talk about and really utilize the discussion questions at the end of the chapter. So it'll be a great experience to have a wide range of people talking about these issues. So that's one of the things we want to do.
So this is what I want to do. Very good. Okay. Woosah. This is so wonderful. And I want to share with you also that here in New Orleans, after Katrina, I don't know if you know or not, but all of the teachers in our city were terminated from their employment. Did you know that?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And majority of them were black because the city of New Orleans is a black majority city. And all my life, teachers were also in our neighborhoods. They were our friends, especially here in the lower ninth ward. They weren't our friends. They were friends with our parents, and they all, and heaven only knows if my teacher had to call home, it was gonna be a problem because my mom was not gonna be happy about that, and that was immediately corrected. These issues that we see now didn't happen when I was in school because all it took was one phone call from a teacher and it was all over. And we had teachers who could pass by our house and wave. Oh, Miss Pearson, Kim was cutting up today in school, which I never did, but because my mama didn't play that, right? That was not a day that could happen, and she would be okay with that. But I think now that seeing what it's coming down to, that black girls are on the losing end of that justice and protection, because kids deserve a certain amount of protection in the classroom, and right now they're not getting it, especially when we have teachers that are in our classrooms who really can't relate to the overwhelming results of being the most victimized in a community, because it's a result that happens. It's a check and balance that happens when that's what's going on. And here in the state of Louisiana, we are the incarceration capital of the world, because United States is the incarceration capital. But in all of these states inside of the United States, Louisiana is number one per capita. We send more people to jail for the first time here than anywhere else. And with that, we are also number one in wrongful incarcerations. So we wrongfully incarcerate people here in Louisiana overwhelmingly. And that is an issue. That is a problem. And that's just one of the issues. Just like the father I was talking to out in, I don't know, he said he was in Lafourche Parish, that where the school showed this Roots movie, and they suspended that father. He told me some other things that had happened there at that school, but he actually knew the principal from, because they went to school together, and the principal was an avid racist riding around with a Confederate flag in his truck, and this father knew this about him. So I just felt like you can't. I really don't know, and I really don't know what that is and how we are going to, as a community, not make this the norm anywhere. I really want to see this. I really want to see this school and this principal held accountable, and all of that. So where do you all think that we go from here? Do you think that the at least now we have the opportunity to have the conversations, and so what you have done is just, we need it. We need that.
I think you're absolutely right. You bring up a brilliant point about the protection piece, because again, we talk about how we normalize behaviors in, especially in the United States, with regard to Black women, and we can go into any place, space, and time and not be protected. And I think what I tell my pre-service, in-service teachers, and what I've told them in the past, is that we have to begin to look at schools as something much more impactful than we look at schools as. And we know we have to look at them as ways that we can intervene and train and respond to students and teach students how to protect one another. And we do that by making sure that there's a swift rebuke of things or phrases, racism, all of these things. We have to start with teaching the students how to protect one another. For Black women, we know, we're by ourselves. Like, nobody's coming to save us. Like, we have to begin to cultivate this sort of ethic in our students, where even if you're in a suburban school with all white kids, this is where the most work needs to be done, because we need to start making this plain as well. We're not going to normalize hate. We're not going to normalize hate speech. We're not going to normalize targeting groups of people. Any of these little, micro jabs, or these little small instances of violence, because that's what they add up to. We have to really understand that in this fight, in this movement toward visibility for what's happening with Black girls in schools, we have to know that we may lose friends. We may lose people that we're cool with.
Yeah.
And so that's the sacrifice that we have to make, because our lives are literally on the line. And in Louisiana, I think it's gonna be, Louisiana is one of those states where, there's a whole lot that goes on in the background. There's a whole lot of stuff that goes on that people don't know about. And, we're happy and content with showing the world
the appearance of happy and content, because we're not really happy and content.
Yeah, the food, the culture, the language, all those things, Black people stewed and created that culture there. But we're happy with that as long as Black people are in their place, as long as they're propping up and saying Black people are doing okay. They got their restaurants and until disaster happens, until something else happens that shakes the core of the community. So I think that we have to be intentional when we talk about, or when we propel these issues to the forefront in our own respective spaces as teachers, parents. We have to, just like the gentleman is doing with his daughter in Lafourche Parish, we have to tell somebody, if you know that you're the only Black parent in that school and nobody's gonna stand up for you, you have to tell Miss Kim or somebody that you know is gonna put it on her show, somebody's gonna post it, somebody's gonna keep it alive so that it doesn't die. I'm not talking about, commodifying or memifying someone and making there an air of of comedy, but I am talking about being able to and being comfortable with shining the light on these things that are happening. And if you see something, say something. And I like to call that, just calling it out. We're not going along with that. Somebody saying something about a Black girl, making a comment about her hair, making a comment about her dress, making a comment about her body, making a comment about anything that has nothing to do with her ability to learn and grow and flourish in the school environment. We have to be able to call that out, because what we do as parents and as the primary protectors, teachers in these classroom spaces, we have to be comfortable stepping in and saying, hey, we're not going like that. We're not fostering that culture here. Even if it's your administrator who's steering and stewing a nasty culture in your school as it relates to racism and violence, we have to be okay with saying, look, we're not going that way because you're harming people. And yeah. I'm willing, I know for me personally, I'm willing to quit. I'm willing to move. I know Lynnette, we move around a lot. I'm willing to leave a place if I feel like, if you'll insult Miss Kim, if you'll insult Lynnette and nothing's done about it, it's only a matter of time before you insult me, before you do something that's going to put my life in jeopardy. And so, something has to be said about it. And, Dr. Bettina Love talks about in her book, The Politics of Refusal, which is really powerful. The book is We Want to Do More Than Just Survive, where she says, she talks about her mom and refusing to go along with foolishness, which essentially that's what it is, refusing to be a part of it. And so people, and I say this to students as well, policy is a slow process. So what you gonna do in the meantime? Why are you waiting for this? And why you, lobbying and calling in this congressperson? What are you going to do in your everyday life that's going to refuse to go along with hate, refuse to go along with violence, refuse to go along with terrorism, refuse to go along with anti-Black rhetoric? It can't, and you talk about millennials, Ms. Kim,
millennials have helped me too. Yeah.
But honestly, you have to cancel everything if you want to live in an environment that's going to eventually put you in harm's way,
enslave you. And we having a big movement now about enslavement, and I believe that those practices unchecked lead to our continued enslavement. And I'm an advocate and an activist. I helped to take down Confederate monuments here in the city of New Orleans. And I will tell you, I saw it's a different paradigm for Blacks and non-Blacks. The methods are just completely different and biased against Black women in particularly. And there's also a thing that I have seen where I see other people who are complacent about it because they don't feel like it will ever have to touch them or their children, which is altogether foolish. It's just like you said, it's only a matter of time before, and I see right now in my heart aches for the Asian community. I ache for the Asian community, but that it eventually was bound to happen because we live in an America that have been so silent during our oppression. You set yourself up for that. It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. And then when they finish getting rid of the, when they get finished oppressing all of the Asians by having justice delayed, by having them have to take to the streets to believe that they can get justice, and then they repeat the same behaviors that we have. But that, so what was our actions not worthy? We really need to work together as a community. Racism harms the whole of us. And since we are the most right now, yeah, we need you to step up and help us too. Everybody, everybody, because racism, the same racism that harms us will eventually harm you too. And I had a white guy tell me that in Walmart. Miss Ford, I know you. He said, guess what? I support you because I know they're gonna have my white a sticks next. I know I'm next on the chain because I'm poor and I'm ugly. So I know I don't stand a chance. So I got to help you. He told me that in Walmart. In Walmart, you got to unmute Danielle.
No, I was just saying only in Louisiana
Yeah.
can a white person
White
be
man. Can a white?
unapologetic.
That was a white man told me that, man, in Walmart. It's like,
Different
yeah,
breed.
yeah, bro. I was like, yeah, power signal to you, bro. Power. you know. But I tell you, and I often talk with people about owning their space.
Mhm.
And too many times people are so intimidated that they have no space to stand up for themselves. And I understand that too, but and I know that sometimes, and especially when we expect our children to to how they survive this. My biggest hope is that they will survive it. That's my biggest hope, that they will survive it, that they will be able to find some safety, someone to stand up for them, someone to stand up with them, even parents, because a lot of times, I know I really didn't know some of the things that was going on with my own daughter in school in 8th grade. But then one day she told me, I was driving home. I was driving a Cadillac then, right? And I've always been over the top, right? Because of my upbringing, right? And she said, "Mama, today," and she kept telling me this little boy kept picking with her at school. But then one day driving home, she said, "Well, Mama, he stuck a pencil in my hair today." Girl, I
Mm.
flipped that Cadillac around on two wheels and went back to that school. Get in the principal's office, and he says, "Well, Miss Ford, I don't understand why you're so upset. And I want my daughter to see my outrage with this assistant principal because I want her to know that that's because, it was always our thing. You handle children problems, I'm going to handle adult problems." And this was definitely an adult problem, which is what I told her. And then what I tried to explain to my daughter is that when people are picking at you and it becomes physical, you have to act. You can't just react. You got to act. If they get physical, you got to shut that down. And so that's where we were. It got physical that day when he went so far as to actually physically stick a pencil in his head, in her hair. Oh, I was livid. Get back to the school. What must the principal tell me? But that he don't know why I was so upset, because it's only because the little boy liked her that he was doing that. Oh my God, I was about to start foaming from my ears, right? I picked up a chair off the floor, one of those little wooden school chairs, and I was about to beat him to a pulp. And my daughter grabbed my hand and she says, "Mama, I'm not a violent person. Please don't do that."
Mm.
I said, "I'm going to take this chair and whip your A double F." I said, I'm gonna show you how to like somebody, right?" And she said, "Mama, please, that's not my way, Mama. I don't want to be that way. I don't want to be like them." So I stopped dead in my tracks. I stopped in my tracks because as parents, we can't take away our girls' uh, thought process. And I thought it would have demeaned her. I wanted to be able to respect her right to be nonviolent because we live in such a violent society and we teaching our children through frustration to strike out and fight. And she was willing to stand up and not go that route. And all of that happened just like that at that moment. But the next day, I went in. I called the police to file a police report, and went to the school the next day. This big old 6'3", 300-pound police officer went to the school with my daughter, and we followed him into the school. He said, "I'm gonna show you." He said, "I'm gonna get some respect for you today." And he went to that assistant principal and told him in front of my daughter. He said, "If ever anybody, anybody, if this child have any more problems," he said, "I have to come back here." He said, "I'm coming back here to see you first, and I'm gonna tear you apart first of all, and then I'm gonna take you to jail." Right there on the spot. And so then they wanted to offer me, because all before I was trying to say, well, maybe we could sit down and talk with this child's parents or whatever. I said, because really, y'all not doing this kid any favors by letting him think that this kind of behavior is okay. Mm-hmm. But they did. And then when the police went over there, he said, "Well, you want to meet with their parents?" I was like, "Hell no, I don't want to meet with his parents now. It's too late for that. Because if he touch my baby again, oh, y'all gonna be in the world of trouble. I can guarantee you that." And so we never had a problem anymore after that when that went down. But just the fact that, so I really feel in a very big way about the importance of having these conversations with Black girls, because Black girls become Black women, and Black women, I feel, we carry the water for the world. Mm-hmm. We the caretakers, and that's been our life since we were stolen from the shores of Africa. So many of us were stolen from our homeland, and it's just the thought of that is just as tragic now as it was then. And we came over to another country, and we have survived, and all of the things in between there of coming from there to where we are the dreams and hopes of our ancestors, people who have gone through so much already. Here we are, and we're still alive. We're still alive. And then we have people like you that are helping us, to move forward and demand justice and make it better for the next generation. That's what we can hope to do. That's what we can hope to do. And I applaud you. I applaud you for the work that you're doing. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for taking the time to meet with us today. And again, tell folks how to be able to find you, how to buy the book. How can we buy the book? Because when you all start having these conversations, I'm at the ready. I'm coming 100 strong. I'm bringing 100 with me. I'm bringing 100 with me.
We're ready. We're ready.
I'm bringing 100 with me.
Anything we can do to support what you're doing, Miss Kim, we're happy to keep the conversation going.
Yeah, and I'm gonna need you. I'm gonna need you because we got some issues around here. This whole thing with us being such big victims in the state of Louisiana, and that starts and I see it in our classrooms. I see what my own daughter went through in the classroom, from what she went through in the class because of the way that she talked. It's always something. It's always something. Yeah. The bullying is out of control.
And that's in our work. And Lynnette, I know you want to just tell us where we can find strong Black girls.
Yeah, you can find it at any of your bookstores, but I would highly recommend, if you're listening in from New Orleans to go to the community book center and patronage, our independent bookstores, because they definitely need your support, especially in the era of COVID, which is down at 2523 Bayou Road. But if you're listening from outside the city, you can buy your book from any local bookseller. You can go to my website, LynetteMawhinney.com, and you can get a link to the book, which is LYNNETTEMAWHINNEY.com.
.com. And we're going to also put some flyers in the store. We're going to also send the invitation to join to follow this Zoom call to the listserv for the book center as well, and get folks coming into that webinar. I'm excited about the webinar too. It's gonna be pretty hot. It's gonna be pretty hot. Been a great interview. You got anything you want to say in closing?
I would just say, well, thank you again, but also to all the listeners. Please get this book. This book is about healing. This book is about having a tool. This book is about making a difference for anybody.
Thank you so much. And anybody with questions, want to find out more questions, you have an issue that you think we need to talk about on the Treeshakers, and we're going to be talking about strong Black girls in the future, because ladies, we're going to be friends for life. We friends forever. We friends in the struggle. We got some more work to do, and I'm loving the opportunity to work with you all in the future. And it's just so happened, this is so fresh, because just the other day, 2 days ago, my daughter told me some of the injustices that she suffered at school that I never knew about.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just 2 days ago. Yeah.
And this book is definitely, as we're finding, resurrecting memories from people. I did a lecture earlier for Michigan State, and I had them reading one of the chapters in the book, which is focused on, telling and retelling Black girl stories together with Brittany Miles and Olala Yakinuoye. And it was a real, when I tell you, people were really moved and really pulled and really shaken. It's real. So, that's, I want that experience to continue to be shared. And I'm happy that this book will be able to facilitate that. So thank you for having us, Miss Kim. Hopefully we'll come back anytime you have us back.
And I want a signed copy. I want my copy signed. Yes, I do. Yes, I do. And I would be honored that you guys really touch my heart, and I'm so appreciative always for helps in these issues that I see and I hear about all day, every day. And to be able, I feel like you guys are helpmates, and just thank you so much. And I gotta say it again, I just appreciate the work you're doing, and you got a sister in me. Okay?
Thank you.
I'll be seeing you guys in the future. Thank you so much.
Fair hug.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.